something that flashed in my mind as you were speaking. And that was when you were recounting your story of, being in the womb and you recognized perhaps you had this revisitation of this experience of being in the womb and the contract that you made with your mom that you were responsible for her not suffering, which for someone who is a newborn, that's a pretty heavy contract to sign at that point in time. And so what came to me was when you mentioned that you then saw your mom not as a kind of a victim, but a fully powerful being who has all the capacity to take care of herself. And to me, that was like a light bulb go on, like an answer. How do you make that peace? And to me was that is something, the lens that I've trying to incorporate is to not see anyone as a victim. Yes, there are situations where people where one could offer support and compassion. But we oftentimes have this view that, we must help people because somehow they are incapacitated. They don't have the capacity to help themselves.
Yeah. Well, they don't a lot of the times, and the way that the world is structured, it's structured to not like that you yourself do not know how to take care of yourself. Like you don't know what products to buy. You don't know how to take care of yourself. You don't know what car to drive. You don't know what school to go to. You don't know anything, that you have to be guided. That has been ingrained in our society since we were children, and so, and a lot of people they still subscribe to that, that thought that like, they don't know, everyone else knows. They don't know anything. They can't trust themselves. They can't, and so then that's them being like, help me. And that's where the victim mentality kind of really comes from. And we truly aren't, like you said, we truly aren't. But right now, the way our society is structured, a lot of people think that, they don't have the power, and that is something that, that I've found in my work, that going back to parents, it usually stems from society, and then the deeper victimization mentalities come from, there's like a lack of nourishment that they've received from their parents, usually the mother, in some way, shape or form. When you pull in pulling that victim card, it's like, as you're crying for the attention, it's like a baby in their crib crying for the attention from their parent, and they didn't get it right as a baby. And so they create situations in their lives where they keep crying for attention, crying for their mom to come and rescue them, and I think, we maybe have all fallen victim to that before, funny word, before, but we have, and so in certain regards, whether it's from society or from parents or whatever, like, I think we all kind of have, and it's great to, see the potential beyond that in each person, because that's really where the magic happens. As like a healer, is like you said, it can like not seeing them in that way and being like, no, you completely have the power. Like you have complete control, and really getting people to understand that on a deeper level, than just like, this way of being like, I do what I want. You see South Park in that episode, and the little girl's like, she's so terrible. And she's like, I do what I want. There's that, which is like, it's an empowerment way, but it's very temporary. Like we're talking about the deeper stuff, the stuff that's like, that really, it's like, you do what you want because you are full enough to do what you want, not because you're, doing it in order to get attention, which is a big.
Yeah. I mean, this is such a rich topic. And I think it's the mother topic, it can resolve so many secondary problems. And a couple of things came to mind. One was what you were just referring to, that, ultimately it can be revealed to us and we can experience ourselves as this almighty, powerful being or the spirit who by their own choices experiencing this limited experience. But going back to your point, I think that as you were giving this example of South Park, as much as it opens the heart, I understand what you were saying is that it is kind of limited in time and duration, and the deeper work needs to be done.
Mhm.
A quick quote came to mind, and I want to see how you feel about that. When I heard
Yeah.
it the first time, I didn't like it very much. It was from one of my teachers, and she is a phenomenally empowered being, and you get empowered in her presence. So
Mhm.
and oftentimes she tells you things that you might not be ready to listen to. So she said to me, she said, the only reason you see someone else as a victim is because you see yourself as a victim.
Yeah. It's like that whole mirror. Mhm.
Yes. And the first time I heard that, maybe it was a few years back, and I had a little reaction to that
Mhm.
internally, and I had to investigate that reaction. It kind of gave me a clue that if I was reacting to that, there was probably some truth in it.
Yeah.
And but anyways, yeah, that has shifted quite a bit. But anyways, so how do you? I think that's very useful for people to hear in our family dynamics, in our friendships. When you say that, look at it objectively.
Yeah.
So how do you disconnecting?
It's not something that I've always done. I'll tell you that. I feel like a big reason, a huge reason as to like what even catapulted me to move to California from New Jersey was my family. And just being in that family, container and all of the stuff, and I just really needed to like remove myself from that for a long time. And it wasn't until I moved to California that I was able to actually tap into that more. And I don't know if have you ever heard of, I'm sure you've heard of Don Miguel Ruiz,
Oh yes, the four
the Four
agreements.
Agreements.
Yes.
Yeah. And like, sometimes it's so funny because some people have like a reaction to that book because he has a really, really direct way of speaking. And so for some people, it can be really off putting. But I really appreciated his frankness and how he really was cutting through the BS and being like, you need to not stop taking things personal. Like to me, out of the Four Agreements, they're all extremely important. That's one. Like when I first read that book, that's the message that resonated with me the most was to don't take things personal because it's really not about you. It's like when you understand that we are all experiencing this world through the lens of us, of our eyes, our emotions, our stories, traumas, whatever. It's purely through our lens. Then you understand that the reactions that you see from people and the responses that you get from people are based off of them. It's not based off of you. And when you finally come to that realization and you're like, oh, like I'm not supposed to be taking any of this personal. And then it really helps. And so being an acupuncturist and walking the path of a healer, I have had to really understand that because, there's certain instances with patients that, yeah, you could really get hurt if you let it, if you were to let it like really upset you and offend you, yeah, it would hurt. But then you have to understand if you just release that and you look at it through the lens of being like, this person in front of me is suffering and they're struggling and they're in pain and, they haven't slept in a month, whatever the case may be. When you see it through their lens, then it's all else kind of falls off, the normal like assault that comes along with, the stuff that is flying at you all the time, it doesn't have a place to stick when you start to look at everything from a more objective viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So that book was very helpful, The Four Agreements for me, and in really understanding that like I do not like this is not about me, not about me. It's really never about us.
Right.
It's just the
Right.
things that are happening around us. And then we have our own personal experience with everything around us, but it's really not about us, what is in front of us from other people.
Yeah, it's totally that objective viewpoint, and we'll put the book there in the show
Mhm.
notes as well. Yeah, and I feel like the more we see that the situation that life is presenting situations and not so much problems, But I think we have to connect with, there are so many ways to do that with our true power
Yeah.
as spirit. And I think you and I were having this conversation earlier, that it gets revealed to you at some point, that only if you want to know the answer. I think that's very important. All these things that we're talking about, if people challenge them, well, how can they come in my experiences? Like, if you are really curious and you investigate them, then it comes into your experience. But if you're not curious, it's not handed down to you, these truths.
Yeah. And it's like, it's a, we're constantly in a state of change. And so we all have our journey with these things, and we all have certain mirrors or people that are like presenting themselves to us for us to see certain aspects within ourselves too, which is another thing. It's like, if you're approached with a situation or a person that is challenging, you look at it and say, well, first of all, like, clearly this is their experience, but then also you can ask the question, like, well, what does this mean to me? Like, what is this showing me into myself? And you can use that difficult moment as a time to do your own like kind of housekeeping and cleaning and figuring out, well, yeah, why did that bother me? Or what does that trigger? Do your investigative work that way. So I do a lot of that too these days, where if I am confronted with something that's really uncomfortable, that's just is not feeling right, I do try and investigate it and figure it out from like on a deeper soul level for myself, as well as like looking at things objectively.
Yeah. Wonderful. So that actually brings a question in my mind, because I've been feeling that as we do this kind of investigation, or when I do it, I'm discovering more and more subtle layers of this work that are more on the feeling level. And oftentimes, more and more I see that I don't have like a narrative or articulation of why that is happening. And I wanted to kind of check in with you with that. What you think about that is that sometimes I feel like I have to trust more what I'm feeling in the immediacy of the situation to kind of make it simple. The kind of process I have now that I'm trusting more is less of what the reason is, like not even going there at times. If it comes to me, it's fine. But sometimes I feel like I have nowhere to even begin. So I can tell you very quickly, like there was this situation that happened to me yesterday where I was speaking to someone, and on the phone, I didn't know this person. And I had this just discomfort. I felt like maybe just something in the vibration. I felt like I was kind of being constrained.
Yeah.
And so I just sat down for like 5 minutes after this 10-minute phone call, just kind of felt into my body. And then I was like, okay, I'm not going to enter into an agreement with this person just because of feeling this way, because I don't know what it is, but I don't feel that this will be good. So I just trusted that. And I just told them, I don't think it's going to work out. So what are your thoughts on that? And can that be trusted at times? To me, it was simplicity.
Oh yeah. That's the key, is like being like, that's like, come on, like that's perfect, because it's like you were completely in alignment, you were completely aware, and you were in tune with how you were feeling in that moment. And then you made your decision, and then it's like, okay, done, on to the next, and just kind of like not really, putting much thought into it after, I think that's important too, is like not letting things stick.
Yes.
And like just kind of like letting it go and just being like, okay, that's it. Good. I moved through that. Good. Because I like being an acupuncturist, that's one of the beautiful benefits and side effects of being in this field is a complete healing feeling modality. For me, two of the diagnostic tools that we use in acupuncture are looking at the tongue. The tongue tells a lot of the physical state inside a person's body, and then also feeling the pulse. For me, it's always been feeling has been more of like a more definitive tool than seeing. And so, I've definitely like fine-tuned, my sensibilities with how I work with my patients. It's all off of feeling. Like I'm a very like intuitive kind of practitioner, where I don't really use books and look at, I know my knowledge, and then I like embodied it, and I like intuit the treatment, as opposed to knowledge based the treatment too much. And so that has worked for me it's kind of spilled over to into my life, because I'm able to really use how I feel the same way that you tapped into your feeling yesterday and how you felt in that moment. And that's the truth. To me, it's like when the feeling is the all knowing in this physical body for me, you know, it's really about how it feels. Like, how does that feel to me, and how does it resonate like in me? Like, what does that feel like? And then that's where the decision, where decisions really, you know, should be made as much as you can.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you for that word of confidence. Yeah, I feel like oftentimes more and more in this deeper spiritual work, the feelings are kind of unlocked. And sometimes, maybe we'll be talking about this more. For me, it's the dream realm where I've kind of given signals of what these feelings or sensations in the body are kind of correlated to. And oftentimes it's not very clear. Like, it's not like you could write down as a prescription, this was related to this, but it's overwhelming evidence that something in the past is carrying this memory in the body. And I think as soon as you were hinting at that, I think if you can get in touch with that feeling, that solves the whole problem, rather than try to go the mental route and navigate through, you know, this happened and then that happened and why did it happen that way. That I'm sure that works, but that seems harder. But if you can get
completely harder. And I think then you also have to deal with like the ego, and then sorting through that too. So, and that adds another layer to things to complicate things. And there's all different parts of us. We're like a sum of all the parts. So sometimes you have like certain aspects of yourself that are going to be more present. Like, you know, the like little girl scared Naja might jump forward and be present in a situation where it's generating fear for me. And so if I just use my mind to go through that, then I would respond based off of scared little Naja, that, you know what I mean, that reacting in that way, which might totally be out of alignment with the way that I need to react as an adult in this body, in this lifetime, and like what I'm doing and creating now, you know? So yeah, I think it's really important to really, the feelings to me have always been where it's at, you know, like, and so, yeah.
Yeah, no, fabulous. Yeah, I think over time, one can develop this sense of being more in tune with the feelings, especially for me being more cerebral. It's taken it was to even understand that was something valuable. And then as that was discovered, that it's easier, you know, it's like, I find it fascinating and interesting to actually connect with them more and feel it out in the body without going into narratives.